One of the problems with the DLC is the lackluster loot. The items we find in the world affects how we feel about the level design, but let's analyze what makes Shadow of the Erdtree one of the best open worlds at times, and seemingly empty at others. A big contributing factor is the loot. Why am I getting level 1 smithing stones when I can buy over 100 of them after killing a few basic enemies? To be fair, not everyone has bell bearings from the base game, and you're gonna want to upgrade your new DLC weapons. Though the ruined forges feel more satisfying to loot because you go in with the intention of gathering smithing stones. Then when you finally discover legendary or rare loot, it turns out to be a glove wart or a crafting book. Most people don't mess with Elden Ring's crafting system, but a lot of the new items are actually really good. And they can give a bit of lore too. But even if you don't like crafting or upgrade items, this map is stacked with unique encounters and items, minus a couple dead zones. The purpose of mediocre loot isn't necessarily to reward you, but guide or trick you as part of the level design. A classic example of this is placing loot on the ledge, so you get ambushed when you pick it up.
I go, oh look, an item near a ledge. Well, obviously that means there's a guy right there. Oh look! Oh, and he throws bombs! Because of course he throws bombs, Miyazaki! Of course he does!
But we've grown wise to your tricks, Miyazaki. Another use of generic loot is to guide the player to deeper secrets. The loot tells us, hey, you have more to explore here, so that we turn back to figure out how to reach it. And while not always the best loot, at least it's better than the rubbish in Dark Souls 3. It's nearly impossible to make the loot you receive always feel good without changing the game system. Elden Ring could give items as random drops when you're low on materials, like Resident Evil's dynamic loot system. Design based on randomness may fit games like roguelikes, but Elden Ring is about everyone facing the same challenge, the same world, and it's led to some incredible design. For me, it completely surpassed the base game as I constantly got sidetracked by finding new hidden paths to get around. There are so many routes you can take to tackle the DLC. In fact, only 3 bosses are mandatory if you skip Castle Ensis. But why would you want to? I ended up in Shadowkeep before exploring the Carrion Castle, so I knew I had to head back. The map is so connected through hidden paths that it felt like Dark Souls 1 again. Almost every area has 2 entrances, and every zone has a greater visual distinctiveness than the base game. This also helps when spotting a new region from far away thanks to the verticality. Some areas lead to dead ends but give you a vantage point to plan where to head next. Exploration felt like a challenge or puzzle to solve, and you're rewarded with a breathtaking view. A lot of people didn't like the Cerulean Coast, but it didn't feel too empty to me. We have the Dancer of Rana, a ghost flame dragon, a demi-human clan, and this giant throwing pots. The problem is that these aren't unique encounters, a problem that carries over from the base game. They try to give you dragon fights in different contexts, like this one fighting Mesmer's army, 2 fighting each other, or a lightning dragon in a pool of water. I hate this boss. If it was just these 3, I wouldn't mind, but there are way too many filler encounters. At least it's better than being completely empty. Problems began to arise with the emptiness of the Finger Ruins and the deceptive location of the Abyssal Woods. When you first get here, the ambiance is thick. Then you get this single dev message that says, "It awaits inside." Fuck that, I'm riding through here. But Torrent is too scared to continue. This had me on the edge of my seat as I slowly walked in the woods, keeping an eye out for anything that moves. Don't let it see you. There is no escape. It cannot even be touched. Wait, those are winter lanterns, but less grotesque. And you can just parry and kill them. This isn't scary at all. Even if you don't know how to parry, the stealth isn't particularly engaging. If this area had more environmental challenges to go alongside the stealth, like the Brain of Mensis and Bloodborne, I would have really enjoyed this part. Then after this short little stealth section, there's nothing, and more nothing. No matter how much the level design screams, "There's a mini-boss over here!" FromSoft has made some frustrating levels before, but the Abyssal Woods have committed the greatest sin in games: being boring. Luckily, the dungeon at the end of this area makes up for it. The legacy dungeons were the best parts of the DLC, and I think people are starting to miss the classic Dark Souls level design. In the base game, a lot of dungeons felt copy and paste because there were so many of them. Now with Catacombs going 3 levels deep without a grace, I actually started feeling anxious as I ran out of flasks and traveled deeper into the unknown. Each of the catacombs had their own little secrets to uncover, with hidden paths, jumping puzzles, and some unique enemies. I actually had to retrace my steps a few times in order to find some important loot. But the level design really shines in Shadowkeep. You can enter this zone from 2 different locations, and it can take you to 4 new ones. Most of this dungeon takes place in a single room, which allows you to see many of the areas you can't reach yet, constantly enticing you to explore more. Freya will also talk to herself so you can try to echolocate where she is, though I wish the sound simulation was a bit more accurate. At first I thought this Fire Knight was speaking to me. Personally, I miss how harrowing the level design used to be. They made it a lot harder to fall off ledges in Elden Ring. Do you hope the next game is open world, or do you want to go back to the classic formula?